They've got desktop class processors, mini LED displays, and price tags way above what you would pay for much of the Mac lineup. So why does the iPad suck so much right now? Because people keep demanding it becomes a Mac, but they're wrong. So how did we get here? Back in 2010, Steve Jobs introduced the first iPad with Apple's first custom processor, and it didn't even include cameras, arriving way before FaceTime. Most of Steve's demos were around content consumption, with photos, Apple Books, and online newspapers taking the lead at the keynote presentation. Envisioned as the real missing link between the phone and the notebook, it was basically Apple's answer to the anaemic Netbooks that were gaining popularity. These were tiny laptops with cramped keyboards, bad displays, slow processors, and limited storage, often running unfamiliar Linux variants. So how did we get to this point where every year we're expecting Final Cut Pro and Logic to come to the iPad and complaining that the iPad's apps can't even tax the M2 processor inside the iPad Pro, let alone the M1 that we got the previous year? It's because we all hate change. We spend all year waiting on rumours for how the iPhone will be dramatically different from the last one. We all want that next revolution from Apple, but when it comes along in a paradigm-shifting touch interface tablet, we just want it to be a Mac. For years, tech YouTubers talked about when macOS and iPadOS will merge, bringing touch to the Mac and real apps to the iPad. But that's really not what we need. Yet the demands went on, and so Apple released the Magic Keyboard and Trackpad for the iPad Pro and obviously the iPad Air 2. Even last year they relented and introduced Stage Manager so that people would finally stop complaining about floating windows being missing. Just like the videos of mine that you could miss if you're not subscribed to the channel. Hit the button right now. You know you want to. But is Stage Manager actually better than what we had before? Reviews are mixed, but for me, split screen makes far more sense on the iPad with its limited screen real estate. Why waste space on overlaps when you could use all of it? There are also complaints that the iPad never needed the power of an M1 chip, let alone the M2 inside, but people forget that Apple Silicon's roots came from exactly this. The M1 is basically what would have been the A14X, a chip designed specifically for the iPad Pro if Intel was inside MacBooks to this day. The only real difference being a few extra features added in like Thunderbolt controllers and hypervisor support. Just as with the A12Z, the M1 and M2 are built on the same cores that generation's iPhones had, just more of them. And just like with the Mac, more performant chips aren't about being able to run more powerful software, but getting better performance, faster processing, and exports when you do. A fanless MacBook Air M1 is quite capable of running Final Cut Pro, but using a desktop-based M1 Ultra Mac Studio will export those rendered videos in a fraction of the time and allow you to use a lot more streams of video. But we still have that dichotomy of those who use their iPads primarily for consumption and those who think it should do everything that a Mac can in exactly the same way that a Mac does. Honestly, I think the iPad should have really focused more on its strengths and ignored the rest. It's great for being that relaxed at-home computing device. It's great to watch content and do light computing, being the workhorse for grandparents who can basically do everything they need, emails, photos of the kids, all that sort of stuff, just on an iPad that works the same way as the phone they already know how to use. It's also epic for designers and photographers and artists. It's incredible to interact with images with the Apple Pencil, even though that's something that Steve really didn't want right at the beginning. But this is something that's evolved into properly. It's perfect for medical settings, for example, where the lack of keyboards makes it incredibly easy to sterilize and carry with you and also view test results like X-rays and MRI images. Does it also have to be a multi-display capable financial trader's battle station desktop or a full functioning recording studio with multiple instruments and controllers attached? Or can we just let it be what it is? When Johnny Ive introduced the iMac G4, pretty much agreed upon as one of the coolest products that Apple has ever created. The LCD display was allowed to float above the computer that was housed in the base.
Why don't we let each element be true to itself?
Isn't it time that we let the iPad be true to itself too? This is a bit of a different video, but hopefully you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Thanks to the Patreons that support the channel for all of your support, and you can join them at iCaveDave.com/Patreon. Want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours? Subscribe and ring the bell.